Okay, everyone, thank you so much for joining us. Welcome to another episode of ECOM Masters. Today we have Chad Rubin, who is the ECOM OG, in case you aren't aware. I just saw his latest LinkedIn post, and I love that moniker. So if you're not familiar with Chad, I can't imagine how that's possible, but he is the founder and CEO of Prophecy. Additionally, he founded Think Crucial, which is a great platform for finding replacement parts for your home, things that might be hard to source. He also co-founded Scubana Hello, a forecasting software for inventory planning. And he is the co-founder of The Prosper Show, which I'm not sure if anyone has ever, if this is the typical way of presenting it, but it is probably the largest Amazon e-commerce conference in the world, I think, probably for Amazon sellers. So Chad has done quite a few things. Not to mention, he also is the author of an Amazon bestseller, Cheaper, Easier, and Direct, and a dad and hubby. Anything I missed there, Chad?
No, that was a beautiful intro. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, we have Nachman Lieser, who is the CEO and founder of ConnectBooks. He is also the founder and CEO of Bottom Line Management, which is a bookkeeping company. And Nachman isn't afraid of complicated things. Let's just put it that way. He decided, bookkeeping and accounting wasn't challenging enough. He was going to do it for e-commerce, which we know is one of the most complex sectors to do bookkeeping for. And then he decided to scale what he does with ConnectBooks. So Nachman isn't afraid of complexities. He's also a dad of 5 children, so he's definitely not afraid of complexities. Anything I left out, Nachman?
No, you got it all.
I got it. Okay, I'm glad to hear. And I'm Tamar Yaniv. I am the CMO at ConnectBooks. And today we are going to talk about the pricing superpower that you might be missing. A lot of people neglect price. Chad and Nachman have stories of trying to make people understand how important this lever is for their business. And we're going to dig into the details of that today. So we'll start there. Now, Chad, I want to start with asking you a little bit about how much you think the Amazon algorithm is impacted by the way people change their price or how they change their price from what you've seen.
Yeah, so it's massive. Obviously, Amazon wants the lowest price out there. And so the way that we started Prophecy is only for private label brands. 70% of Amazon currently is private label. And so there's a lot of repricers out there that try to win the buy box. Prophecy only focuses on winning the SERP, the search engine ranking page, and making sure you're top of search. So the most important thing to Prophecy is how do we make sure you're maximizing profit without affecting your discoverability on the platform? And that's really how we started building Prophecy. So we want to make more money. We want to essentially arbitrage the profit gap that exists and the money you're leaving on the table, but we're not willing to trade off organic positioning. So it's actually an art and a science. It's an art and a science around doing those things simultaneously.
Very interesting. And we're going to dig way more into that. I have like 5 questions already just from that statement. But Nachman, can you tell me a little bit about if you have, obviously, pricing is something in business that you need to consider with your positioning, like standard, basic, foundational thing, no matter whether you're selling socks or on the street corner or whether you're on a marketplace like Amazon. But Nachman, do you have a story or an experience when it really became clear to you specifically on Amazon how important pricing was when dealing with your clients?
Sure. Pricing is something that's very, very important. And, I had a little chat with Chad the other day, and I told him it's like, I feel like what he's done is a genius move because it's something that's constantly overlooked by most people. People like everybody's focusing on PPC, everybody's focusing on this, everybody's focusing on that. But price is one of the things that are overlooked, overlooked like by a lot, and there's a lot of different aspects that we have seen, but one of the best stories we actually had with ConnectBooks was that we had a customer that their business wasn't doing well, and it went by like a couple of months. They had like a certain, the way they identified it is, since they didn't have a proper set of books, they identified it based on what was in the bank. So they had in the bank like $500,000, and the kind of bank started dwindling, and when the bank hit 300, they hit the panic button, they lost it. So they actually came to ConnectBooks to set everything up. And once they set everything up, they saw that they're losing a lot of money on their products. So the only option was, in order to survive, was actually to increase the price. But they were always scared to increase the price because of the competitor. But once they saw black and white that they're losing money on, so there was no other option left on the table besides the increased price, and they actually turned it into a very profitable business, and they were able to grow back up. So a lot of times I say people are very scared to touch the price. It's a scary thing to do, but sometimes there's no other option. And that's really when you realize, how important it is.
Super interesting. We'll dive a little bit more into the fear factor as we continue. But Chad, you've done so many different ventures in this ecosystem. What was it about this specifically that just drew you in?
Yeah. Well, after I sold Stubana in April 21, I was staring at a tree and I started working on my own e-commerce business. And my e-commerce business has deteriorated substantially. Much like many people in 2021, 2022, things just aren't the same. And so I tried every lever, right? All the gurus on Amazon talk about listing optimization. They talk about finding the right ad agency, and nobody is talking about price. And price is the single biggest lever that all flows down to the bottom line. So I started experimenting with my own pricing on my e-commerce business and started seeing the fruits of changing and exploring and discovering and seeing, hey, if I'm trying to achieve this objective, what if I make this small change? What are all the impacts that happen when I make these small changes? And I started seeing that my net profit started increasing substantially over time. And my BSR wasn't changing, right? And I think that's hitting the fear factor, is that the only way to understand changes on Amazon is actually by making those changes and not just listening to what hearsay is around, oh, you should never change price on Amazon, because that leads to bad outcomes.
Yeah.
Most people on Amazon just copy a competitor's price. They copied another competitor's price, and they go slightly lower maybe to remain competitive. But the biggest secret is that those competitors that they're copying are broke. So why on earth would you copy them? And I don't know, I'm getting some.
No, I loved it. There was like a lot of emphasis with your, I love fireworks. It's like, yes, whatever he said, I'm doing it. There's a few questions in the chat. I just want to tell everyone at the end, we'll have time for Q&A, no stress. So just stick around and we can get to your questions specifically. We just talked a lot about fear factor. And thank you for the personal touch also, Chad, and sharing that is something to overcome. Nachman, I want to start with you, because when we first talked about this, you first said all the things that you have to do to convince a client to change their price. Like, you have to come armed and prepared. Can you share with me a little bit about what that experience is like for you?
Sure. So one of the features called the comparison reports. And the reason why I like a lot about the comparison reports is there's two factors. Number one, we actually didn't build it. We're working with our big clients, like 70, $80 million sellers, and they actually requested this feature, and they're like, this is something crucial that we need. And they explained it to us how they analyze it, and that's how we built it. So it's something that, if you look on ConnectBooks, it's something that you're getting what 70 to $80 million sales built and what they use on a day-to-day basis. But what's also very important about it is I always say to everybody, and this is like a general accounting knowledge, which I have confronted a lot of people. I told somebody once, you made, let's say last year, $200,000 in profit. Maybe you could have made 400. And the answer is they don't know. And the reason why they don't know is you want to always take your numbers and you want to benchmark it against what you have. So I always say you don't know what good is until you see what bad is. So if you look over your monthly financials month over month, what you want to see is you want to pick out a good month. You want to see, okay, which month did I do well? And then you want to take that month and use it like as a metaphor to constantly benchmark against that month and try to keep that going. And that's how you can make sure that every month you're maximizing your profits. So one of the things we actually have done is on the comparison reports is we have the ability to really give you side by side every single. You can see your sales, all the fees, the profitability, the ad spend, conversions. You get to see the buyback sessions, all that. Plus, you also get to see at what price the product sold, because a lot of times moving that up, moving that down makes a huge impact on your bottom line. So that gives you a certain glance, and it gives you a certain view within exactly 60 seconds that you're able to see what's going on in the business, and that will give you a certain clarity how to change it. So we had an example of a client that was selling a product was selling it at $35 a unit. And it was actually, this was a private label case. So they were selling it at $35 and they weren't sure if they should lower the price or move it. Turns out they lowered the price down. And what ended up happening is over 3 months, their profitability went up. Why? Because they had two theories that they plugged into it. But number one is that profit, meaning once the price went down, obviously sales went up. So they moved down the price at $5, which increased their sales. Now, but you need to increase sales enough in order to cover for the difference in price. But then they had another thing is that certain advertising fees went down, other fees went down, and they were actually able to see that when they run the product at a $30 price range instead of a 35, they're actually making more profit. And that was something very hard for them to figure out because they really need to pull all the numbers side by side, exactly see everything. And there we were able to show them, how it works. So you're constantly going to be doing changes and you're constantly going to be, either moving up your ad spend, moving down your ad spend. You want to move up the price, move down the price. And you want to find what we say the sweet spot and where you want to try to keep those products. And that's where, working on the comparison reports, that really where that gives you a certain view that you can actually see, wow, this is really doing where I want to get to. And I'm really on track to hit my profitability goal for end of year.
So that's an amazing tool. I think that helps clarify immediately. So I guess instead of having to convince people old school the way you used to, that's a great new tool that you have. Chad, so you do a lot of work just helping people understand the power of price change. But on the other side, like what are some of the risks that people need to mitigate with changing the price? Like not everyone should go in and just willy-nilly change everything. What are the risks?
Well, let's see. So when you come to Prophecy, you give us your min price, your max price, and your landed cost. Now, you set up the objective. So do you want to maximize your ranking position? Again, we only work with private label sellers. I think there was a comment in the chat around competing for the buy box. Like we don't help resellers compete for the buy box, right? We only help private label sellers who are the only people that own the buy box, period. So, so back to your question around risks, right? So you give us the guardrails. You say, hey, here's our min price, here's our max price, and those are the bounds that we never violate. You give us your landed costs. Now, the next step is my objective. Do I want to maximize revenue? Do I want to maximize my unit velocity? Do I want to maximize my profit without sacrificing my ranking position on Amazon? We do all of that. But then there's these what I call power ups. So you can decide, do I want to take on risk or not? Am I risk loving? Am I risk neutral? Or am I risk averse? Do I not want to take on any risk? Right. So that decides the price incremental changes that happen for exploration. So for example, one risk could be, well, I am concerned that I have channel conflict and then Amazon shops my other products across other channels. So in that case, if you're selling on Walmart or Target or Walmart's price becomes your max price, and then you can really just explore down from there, right? That could be or maybe Amazon doesn't scrape your other products across other channels at all. Another challenge should be around price suppression or buy box suppression, right? So essentially, Amazon doesn't like a price change that it sees, and then you're suppressing. Luckily, Prophecy has technology that we built that automatically resets back to the original price to unlock that buy box again. But now you understand what the threshold is. Most people don't even know what their suppression threshold is on Amazon, and we gather that and we do it really, really quickly. So hopefully that answers some of your questions.
Yeah, no, that was super helpful. I didn't know a lot of those things also. So Nachman, you touched on pricing sweet spot. Tell me a little bit more about that. You shared about the comparison reports, but what are some other things that people can do when using the comparison reports or whatever tools that they have available to try to find those pricing sweet spots other than using Prophecy, which obviously is a great tool?
Right. So finding the sweet spot, varies. I would say like usually 3 different factors is what you want to get in. And I mean, these are things that, like even with Prophecy with Chad also like puts these stuff in place and, things that they talk about is the first thing you want to make sure, obviously you have the right price. Meaning if you're, it's supply and demand, you want to make sure that you're pricing your stuff accordingly. The other thing is you also want to make sure that you have your proper ad spend. So what the proper ad spend would be is you want to make sure that and that's something that you would go more through trial and error. It's something that you would need to play around with, and you can kind of increase your bids, decrease your bids, or move things around in the campaigns. And then you want to constantly keep on benchmarking to see, are the results getting better or are the results getting worse? And the same is going to be with the price. A lot of times they both go hand in hand, which that gets a very big challenge because you're not sure which one does better. But you want to make sure that you have the ad spend, and you want to make sure that you have the proper price point, which you're comfortable, which yields the results that you want to yield. And then the other thing is you also want to focus on is having the proper stack. So many times I've seen people like really do well in a certain product and they spend a ton of money on the ads, and all of a sudden, boom, they're out of stock. Now they have to wait 2 months till they replenish. And the problem is by the time they replenish their stock, they have to start working again on the ranking and have to really start working on everything again and again, which takes all the hard work and turns it over for nothing. So you want to make sure that you have the proper stack. Now, when you have a good inventory software and you have like good oversight of what the stock should be, it's easier. But always tell people in general, like a good metric would be to, like, if you're importing from overseas and you want to know what your production time is. So let's say production time is 2 to 4 weeks, and then to bring it in, it's another 4 weeks. So you want to look usually probably like around at a 3-month stack. Usually most companies don't want to keep more than 3 months on hand. With a 3-month stock on hand, what you also want to do is you want to make sure that you turn over your inventory fast enough. So you don't want to like overstock, you don't want to understock, and you want to find that sweet spot. And I will tell you the easiest way for you to understand if your turnover is doing well from a whole, like if you want to just look at your business as a whole, is look what was your cost of goods sold for the last 3 months, and then look how much inventory it is. So for example, if your cost of goods sold for the last 3 months is $1 million, your inventory shouldn't be more than $1 million. You shouldn't be carrying more than that. And you should also always make sure the inventory level never goes up. So that's like a very quick and easy metric to put into place to really understand. Now, obviously, you want to get into nitty gritty and you want to go down to every single product, because sometimes that you can have certain products that are really not moving and you want to just try to liquidate it and you want to try to get rid of those products. But if you have never like really looked on your inventory to know if it's a healthy inventory or not, your first metric to be, do you have more inventory based on your cost, not your sales, your cost of goods sold in the last 3 months? And if you don't know what your cost of goods sold is, that's where you would use something like ConnectBooks to spit it out to you in 5 minutes. But you want to look at what your cost of goods sold for the last 3 months, making sure that's not more than your inventory. And then later on you probably want to get more into the nitty gritty. So if you get your inventory quantity right to the point that you need it, where you spin it over fast enough and you're not sitting too long on it, and you get your ads into the proper place, plus you also get your pricing in there, then you'll just be moving fast.
I did
Chad,
want to
can you
comment
add
on the
anything?
inventory. Yeah, I just
Yeah.
want to comment on the inventory thing, because like we've baked in inventory into our model. And so, for example, when customers are low on stock and they want to gain extra margin, our model will automatically start to incrementally push up price.
Oh, that's so smart.
It's pretty cool. So, and on
Yeah.
top of that, with all these fees that are happening, for example, long-term storage fees, it's the reverse, right? So as you're getting long-term storage fees, to offset that, we'll start lowering price to offset the long-term storage fees to get those out of the Amazon FC.
Wow, super interesting.
I would just add on one thing about talking already about the turnover rate. I would say, and Chad, you probably agree with me on this part, is that probably the most important report in an Amazon business at this point is the inventory age. Like, and a lot of companies don't have the proper inventory softwares that can do that. Very few of them have the ability to pull an age. But because I've seen many sellers sitting with $5-7 million worth of inventory, and I'm like, so how old are these stuff? Oh, we don't know. So like, if I would know that 20% of it is sitting more than a year, then I would discount the inventory with 20%.
Yeah. Well, so here's the thing: is that if you're, say, sitting on inventory that is dead or is not selling through, you set that objective up in Prophecy. So if you just want to actually maximize liquidation and unload those units, right? The objective is to move sales velocity, not caring for profit on those items. So you can set up those custom configurations in our product and it'll automatically do that. I also want to say there's some fire questions in the Q&A that I think we should get to too. I see Melissa Davis is pretty active and I want to make sure we're getting to those and I want them to keep coming.
Absolutely. We just have one more, then we'll jump to the Q&A. So Chad, just talk to me about price and demand. Like how do I calibrate? How do I figure that out? What's the connection?
So there's an inverse relationship to price and demand. Econ 101, price goes up, demand goes down. Price goes down, demand goes up. It's no different on Amazon, but the difference is that actually there's other effects that are at play and there's a lot of other noisy signals that are happening. So our model not just looks at price and demand and elasticity of your product on an individual ASIN level. We also are factoring in other amazing things like seasonality, for example, conversion rate, your impressions. We actually do a reverse ASIN lookup on a specific keyword and scrape your competitors' BSR and their price into the model. And these are all patterns. The patterns are no different than what happens on Facebook or Instagram when you go on those platforms and you like something or you dwell on a video or you connect with somebody. You're informing the model on the next step that it should take. It's predicting how to actually achieve your dopamine, and your dopamine continues you scrolling on the platform. And so the same thing for prophecy specifically. Our objective is based on what you want to achieve on the platform, but we only do that based on all the signals and all the patterns that it's reading. That's one thing that AI is really good at, is predicting and looking at patterns. So as it relates to one of the questions I guess we can knock out is around, Melissa Davis, I think, asked around, well, private label sellers can lose the buy box due to pricing. It's not always competing against other sellers. You're absolutely right. You're competing. You need to make price changes to see how Amazon.com reacts, how your customers react, and how your competition reacts to those price changes. And we're pulling all of that information into a model so it can make the most informed decision. Now back to you, Tamar. You asked about the difference in price and demand. I just want to add one more thing that I think is really absolute, like on point and key that nobody is thinking about, which is when you make a price change, price dictates ad spend. So this is like next level, second order consequence type of event that is harmonizing price and advertising spend together. The numerator of ACOS and the denominator of the ACOS equation, and doing it holistically. And so when you increase price, for example, we know organically your demand will go down. And then you can actually offset that with increasing of ad spend to artificially inflate demand. And now you can actually sell things at a higher price. And so that's what we're seeing, is that arbitrage opportunity around price and ad spend together and harmonizing that to really amplify your profitability on the platform. And nobody is doing this right now.
I certainly haven't heard that before. So I love that. I like wanting to rewatch and take voracious notes, and I hope everyone else will as well. Nachman, do you have anything you want to add, or should we dive right into the Q&A?
Yeah, let's dive into the Q&A.
Okay, so I have an anonymous question. Ooh. So the question is, should they focus on higher overall profit and lower per items margin by selling more units, or focus on higher margins per item, even if their overall profit will go down?
So,
Feel this.
I mean, like, I think the reason why pricing is so hard on Amazon is you don't know if the right decision is to go up or down in price. So, and I think this is a little bit of what Nachman was talking about, whereas you can increase price, and that'll, by the way, decrease your discoverability. That could have a knock-on effect on your ranking on Amazon. Or you can lower price. Lowering price, you'll create more unit velocity. Hopefully that unit velocity will offset the lower price. And now you're also not renting space on page one with PPC ads, but now you own page one with with organic placement. And so that is really why an AI model is so superb in this process, is that it's actually doing what Uber does with Uber surge pricing, right? It's figuring out, based on all the signals, based on how many cars are available, how many people are requesting a car at the airport. Is it a black car? Is it not a black car? How many black cars are available versus the X cars that are available on UberX? And so it's taking all these data points and making the optimal decision that'll actually enhance the objective that you want to achieve. So there's no simple answer of like, is it better a decision to go up or down? You have to explore price, discover price. And the beautiful thing about AI, it gets better over time. So on Amazon, you want to fail fast, which allows you to succeed faster. And that's really precisely what AI is about, right? Algorithms evolve. They observe, they experiment, and they learn, and they do that all independently to make better decisions that you can make as a human being. And I think that's really where that's really where the Amazon marketplace goes over time. That's the future.
Wow. I mean, that's a really interesting approach
We're
to,
sold on AI. Okay.
yeah, I would say it's an interesting approach to kind of jump constantly on the pricing. But one thing I would point out a lot, and which I've seen people in the past, is like I had a customer that was selling a lot of different products. Some were very high margin, some were very low margin. And by not having the proper clarity, which ones are actually contributing to his bottom line, he found himself one day in a big loss because what happened was certain sales tanked. But since there was so much noise going on in his account, he had no clue which ones were doing well, which ones weren't doing well, and he all of a sudden found them in a different loss. So I would say is the main thing is you should really have a model what you choose and how to operate the business. If you really want to operate on high profitable items and you want to really find out what the best pricing it is, obviously to test it on it, but you should have really a model on how you operate your business, and that would based on that you'll be able to focus easier.
Next question. Discount pricing strategy. So sale price, coupons, what works best? Coupons cost, what if they get clipped and they don't get used? You pay for it. Do you have any advice around that?
So first of all, if you're doing like a prime exclusive discount, a PED, as an example, our team is like a data science co-pilot for you. So we have a Slack channel that we form with all of our clients that are using Slack, and they'll let us know, hey, by the way, we know that we need 30 days time frame to actually do a PED, which is a 20% plus discount. And so that discount becomes our max price. So that becomes the boundary that we never violate. And so our algorithm is actually consuming the coupon that you're using. Let's just say you do have a coupon on it. We're actually only changing the top level price, right? The listing price specifically. We're not changing the coupon price, and the coupon price changes with the price that we're offering. Now, we could give you some guidance around if it's worth it to do the coupon that you're doing, but our pricing that we're giving is the list price specifically on the listing.
Nachman, you have anything to add about coupons, discounts?
I mean, what I can just say from my experience is that people on on July, I think it was I forgot what the day was in when Amazon had that Prime Day, like their huge sale. So we actually onboarded a client right then, and they were running like a lot of coupons, and they doubled their daily sales because they ran a coupon on Prime Day, but they split their profits in half because they ran coupons. So they just didn't have clear visibility on what they were doing. They were just like, okay, let's just increase sales, and it's Prime Day, so we're going to put a coupon because everybody is doing coupons on Prime Day, and let's increase sales. It's not always about increasing sales. I mean, I think the most takeaway where everybody's in business is to bring on profit. So you just want to make sure that whatever you do, you have clear visibility afterwards to see, how well it's performing. And, it's not just about the top line.
Okay, I have a very specific ConnectBooks question next. They want to know if they can see their organic sales and ad sales on ConnectBooks.
Sure, we have, we can show you organic sales, ad sales. We can show you the profits from organic versus the profits from the ad spend. All that is available on our comparison reports. So you can always compare your regular sales and, break out what's organic and what's not, and, figure out how well your ads are performing, versus your organic sales.
I'm excited to hear the answer to the next question. So thank you, Melissa. How does the constant pricing changes affect qualifying for Prime exclusive discounts, event discounts, and new coupon rules? How does that impact it?
So the new coupons, at least if I'm understanding correctly, implies that the customer will get the sale price plus a coupon. So they save even more. So by the looks of it, and I haven't done too much exploring on it, right? We don't control the coupon price, but I think the coupon is measured relative to the current price and can't be stacked on the sale price. In other words, the sale and the coupon are treated separately. So I don't know if that answers the person's question, but it's really either that Amazon expects you to set a coupon relative to the current price, irrespective of the sale price, and then automatically calculates the coupon stack for you. So at least with this new finding with the coupon stack, is that what I would do is set the coupon to the required amount and then test it by adding it to the cart. So I think you need to just test to see, because this is such a new addition to Amazon's promotion stack that they've offered. This is how I would look into it. Hopefully that answers the question. I think I got the question right, but I think they're talking about the new coupon requirements that Amazon released.
I think, yeah, also they were just in general, I think, asking about Prime exclusive discounts and if changing your price all the time could have an impact on that.
Yeah, so the Prime,
Prime.
if you know that you have a PED coming up, you just have to like let our team know that the PED becomes the min price, or the 20% increase becomes the min price of the pricing boundaries that we don't explore. This way you can get your PED deal, and then we just pause it during the PED deal. But like most people think that like a PED is like and I think this maybe is also talking about a little bit what Nachman talked about, where people have kind of lost sight on why they do what they do, right? The why of why they do things on Amazon. Like, why do they spend on advertising? Maybe they can actually use pricing as a lever instead of using advertising. Maybe they can use pricing as a lever instead of using PED deals or just dropping down to such a ridiculously low price where they're losing profit, and the way to make that money back on profit just doesn't exist. It's harder to actually scale up and get back to where your profit would have been without the PED deal. So I guess the crux of what I'm trying to share there is that sometimes you have to just ask why you're doing what you're doing in the Amazon space, and just don't follow the masses just because everyone else is doing it.
That's great advice for everything, Chad, not just on Amazon. Nachman, do you have anything to add?
This is Chad's field. This is his specialty.
I'm learning so much. It's very interesting. We're so happy you could join us. Okay, I have another question. It's about Amazon price scrubbing. Any thoughts on Shopify pricing in relation to Amazon, like how you position that? Or do you use some rails that you mentioned about Walmart being more like your map pricing?
All right, so I'm going to bring it down just to Shopify, Amazon for now, which is, so every single week we know where pricing is going before it happens. And so if you're in Slack with us, our team can be giving you a spreadsheet of where the price is going, so you can update Shopify accordingly, and we can put it in the Shopify spreadsheet format that you want it in. But that's how we approach multi-channel. Now, Amazon doesn't scrape every channel for pricing and price parity issues, but when it does, or if you feel like there could be a challenge with that, we can give you where pricing is going, and you can just upload that into Shopify. As it relates to Walmart as an example, we can do the same thing for Walmart. So we know where pricing is going, and we can give you that spreadsheet, and you can update Walmart first. And then essentially when you update it to Amazon, Amazon can be looking around and see that there's no other alternative pricing that's competing or not in line with where the price parity, it doesn't violate Amazon's price parity rules.
Got it. Oh, we have another one. Anything you want to add there, Nachman?
This is really on Chad's side, these pricing rules. Accountants are only after the fact. We're not before.
I thought I really, but I had to position you too, and just how the solutions that you've built and how you address the market. Nachman is just the principled, sober-minded, honest. This is what you need to do with innovation built in there as well. And Chad, he can sniff out the BS and really kind of be the source of truth with the innovation as well, and to innovate very, very honestly. And I found this such an interesting mix between the two of you. It's been so wonderful. We have time for one more question. I think this is about prophecy, so we'll let it go there. Do you have a dynamic feed with your tool? Also wondering if there are any control over region for pricing depending on where your 3PL is.
Yes. So by the way, if we don't get to any Q&A, like I'm an open book, so if you want to email me, you can email me at chat@prophecy.com. We can take the conversation offline. So I just want to put that out there. So the question was around the feed. So for example, Prophecy automatically is pushing the optimal price daily. And by doing just even once a day, we're seeing a 10 to 15% lift in profit. When it comes to feeding to other channels at this moment, Prophecy does not feed the pricing to other channels. So typically we want to see either a company not have channel conflict when they come to us, where they're just like a private label business on Amazon, or their other channels don't really matter. Or we can give you the pricing in advance and you can push those prices to the optimal channel that you're concerned about with the channel conflict. But we already feed the pricing to Amazon. It's not like we're giving you the price. We're always issuing the right price, the right time to Amazon within the boundaries and the configurations that you set up on the platform. So look at Prophecy as a co-pilot. We don't just do things without, like, you're dictating the rules to us, and we're living within those rules. We're living in your world, and we're just operating within that world in the confines that you've given us to help you maximize the objective that you want to achieve using the platform.
Beautifully stated. Okay, closing remarks, Nachman. What do you have to say to
Oh.
everyone? First of all, thank you everyone for joining. But Nachman, what's your closing takeaway for everybody?
I would say, I mean, it's an amazing webinar. And I mean, I've learned a lot of stuff from Chad and, stuff that mentioned, I would say differentiate Chad is more like getting the innovation done and, like figuring things out, how to sell it. Then we're usually more like after the fact to tell you how things performed and how things are, moving, how things are moving in your business. And what I would say is, the most thing is, and especially in a world like today, where profit is really everything. The companies, and what I actually have seen an interesting thing, the companies that were doing well, even before COVID and like for the last 3-4 years, are actually still doing well this year. The companies that weren't never, most of the solid companies are still doing well. That's what I have seen from the customers I work with. And I would primarily say the reason why they're doing well is they're on top of their numbers. So if you're on top of your numbers, your numbers in the back of your mind, and anytime you see something moving not in the right direction, you're automatically able to pull your levers, take what needs to be done, and catch the problem. You'll definitely be seeing it. And I've seen companies like not knowing the numbers and going down the drain. I just recently had one customer, was like a $15 million seller, used to profit every like around $1.5 million, used to bring home net profit $1.5 million. For the last 2 years, whatever the reason was, they didn't have proper books, no oversight. Of course, year end is no profit. Why? Because nobody was on top of everything. Nobody knew. You didn't have things down to the bottom. And a lot of it has to do with having proper inventory in stock, having the proper price, having the proper stuff. So by being fully set up, having things in the proper place, which gives you visibility and that lets you make clear decisions, that's going to be the key to really like have a good, healthy business.
Love it. Chad, your closing remarks?
Closing remarks. I mean, I think the one thing that Nachman and I have in common here is profit, right? Profit is the heartbeat of your company. It's not the one thing, actually, it's actually the only thing that really matters at the end of the day, right? And when you look at all these companies that are going bankrupt or companies that are going out of business, they're all doing it for the same reason. They're going broke and they're running out of money. So I think the one thing you're going to get out of today's webinar is profit, right? You're essentially learning from two people who have the same intention, and that is to how do we make more money for you? How do we look at what's happening in your business? How do we take those errors and make them learnings for you? And I just appreciate you guys hosting me and being so honest and sharing your truths on this call with everyone else and really working hard to make the community better.
Thank you, Chad. And thank you everyone for joining us. I saw people trickle in and trickle out. The good news is this webinar is being recorded and we will be sharing with everyone who attended and even those who weren't able to make it after we wrap up. Also, to remind you, there will be one lucky attendee who will receive a free bookkeeping session with someone from Nachman's team. So fingers crossed, good luck. Thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you on the next episode of ECOM Masters. Have a good one.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Bye-bye.